Hello, you absolute lovelies. These are the Spider-Man comics to read on the road to Spider-Man Brand New Day. But these are also the Spider-Man comics to read maybe after you've seen Spider-Man Brand New Day. I'm filming this video at the end of June. As of this moment, I have not seen the film, but I have seen which characters are confirmed. I have seen a ton of those covers homaged beautifully in live action in a movie. So I thought this would be fun for people that want to know more about the characters leading up, or say you watched the film, loved it, and you want to know more about Spider-Man's relationship with Hulk, Spider-Man's relationship with Punisher. Who is that Tombstone guy? Who's Scorpion? I've got some all-time great comics here to break that all down, whether you've seen the movie or not. So this is inherently no spoilers because I couldn't spoil it. I haven't seen the film, but these are some of my favorite comics featuring the characters we know are in the movie. I learned to read with Spider-Man. I was 2 years old when I got my first Spider-Man comic. I, as of recording this, am 18 issues away from every Spider-Man ever in print, and I've read them all. We're talking Peter Parker, Spectacular, Amazing, Sensational, Web of, Ultimate. I'm 18 issues from every Spider-Man in print, so I'm pretty versed in this stuff, and I wanted to share some of that knowledge with you. Let's break it down. Let's kick off with Spider-Man himself. Now, I'm going to kick it off by saying Spider-Man Brand New Day is not a traditional arc in the sense of like you can get it in a trade paperback. It's not just one run. It is a huge era of Spider-Man. It is 102 issues. This is available in a giant omnibus. You could read these 102 issues, but if you want to think about it differently, Brand New Day is more of a state of mind. After the events of One More Day, which in the comic books has Mephisto erasing everyone's knowledge of who Spider-Man is after the events of Civil War when he reveals himself, but at the cost of his and Mary Jane's marriage and relationship, which is still haunting Spider-Man to this day, which should be fixed. But that storyline was very controversial, and it led to a lot of muddy storylines. Brand New Day tried to clean that up by having basically a new status quo. The Spider-Man comic shifted into weekly releases. There was a new Spider-Man comic every single week, varying different creative teams, lots of different stuff was going on, but the goal was to make it very user-friendly, very new reader-friendly, playing into that Silver Age kind of tone and making it more just generally fun as a reader to pick it up from that point. So this is a very good run if you've never read Spider-Man, but I don't think it's going to be a one-to-one. I don't think a lot of this is going to relate directly to the movie. What I do think is going to relate is Spider-Man the Other. This is a 12-issue series you can get in one trade, and it was across 3 Spider-Man titles, the big ones at the time. It was 2005, 2006, and it was Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, the flagship Amazing Spider-Man title, and Marvel Knight Spider-Man. So it's 4 issues for each of those titles. And basically what happens is Spider-Man gets so beat up in a fight, he's almost dead. He almost dies, and he basically has to choose to die or kind of metamorphosize. He goes into a cocoon and he comes out much more animalistic, much more spider-like, and he's got organic webbing now because he's much more of a spider. So we see some of that teased in the trailer. We see a kind of spider puberty that Tom Holland has talked about. I do think this is going to relate pretty directly, so Spider-Man the Other does feel like a must-read leading up. But I would also recommend the Six-Armed Saga. It's only 3 issues. It was issues 100, 101, 102. It's actually where Morbius was introduced, and it was Morbius and the Lizard, but the reason I think this is going to be important is it's the idea of Peter Parker trying to cure himself. I think that's going to be a factor. I think the cure of Spider-Man is the relationship with Bruce Banner. I think him trying to get rid of Spider-Man, and that is what these 3 issues are about, and that, I think, is what's going to lead to the other. So it's going to be a little different than either comic, but I do think reading the Six-Armed Saga, I don't necessarily think he's going to man Spider up or get 6 arms, but I think that is also an important run. So I would read the Six-Armed Saga, and then the other for sure. I would also, just for fun, because it's a great issue, check out Peter Parker No More. This is a kind of spin on the iconic Amazing Spider-Man number 50. In Amazing Spider-Man number 50, it is Spider-Man No More. You've seen this cover. Everyone has homaged this cover. It's Peter Parker walking away from being Spider-Man. In Amazing Spider-Man 392, it is Spider-Man done being Peter Parker. I think that's going to be a huge fundamental to what this story is. I think it's a great way to take the character after no one knows who Peter Parker is. He's going to be spending a lot more time as Spider-Man. Now, this particular issue is the 3rd issue in the Shrieking storyline. That involves Shriek and Carrion, and basically these are very 90s characters, but the important thing you need to know is in this issue, Aunt May goes into a stroke, and Peter Parker's like, I can't take the pressure anymore. may ends up dying in 8 issues. Spider-Man 400 is a very big, heavy issue, and this issue is very formative to that. But the Peter Parker No More aspect is integral. Art is by Mark Bagley, who is one of the formative Spider-Man artists of all time. He ended up doing Ultimate Spider-Man, which is one of the longest runs of all time between a writer and an artist, and probably the most approachable comic of all time. So if you want to read any Spider-Man, Ultimate Spider-Man is fantastic from Mark Bagley. But 392, Amazing Spider-Man, is Peter Parker No More. So those are some key Spider-Man books. I talked about Brand New Day, and that's not going to be directly related, but I do think you should check out The Other and the Six-Armed Saga, and then if you want, check out issue 392, which is Peter Parker No More. Let's get into some relationships. Let's talk about Hulk. So Spider-Man with Hulk is not usually combative. They're usually friends. A lot of the time he's dealing with Bruce Banner, not Hulk, and there is a science camaraderie there. But there are 3 incredible Spider-Man fights. There's actually like 5 or 6, but these are my 3 favorites. There is a really good one that's a 2-issue run. I'm not going to talk about that one. I promised you 3. I'm going to give you 3. 3 Hulk issues I do recommend. I'm going to go with Peter Parker Spider-Man number 14 from the 1999 volume 2 of Peter Parker Spider-Man. So this issue would have been in the early 2000s. Peter Parker Spider-Man as illustrated by John Romita Jr. Some of the best Spider-Man artwork ever. I adore JR. He is finally getting some love lately on top of his usual amount of love because of some crazy cover controversy. I digress. This is a throwdown with Hulk, and the reason I think this is the first I'd recommend is because it is a place of loneliness and sadness. Peter Parker, or Spider-Man, actually picks a fight with Hulk out of thinking Mary Jane's dead, and he wants to be hurt, he wants to fight, and a shared loneliness between Hulk and Spider-Man is, I think, going to be a big factor in Spider-Man Brand New Day. So that single issue is, I think, going to be a lot of the relationship we get here. I'd also recommend Amazing Spider-Man number 14. So the reason I wanted to stress Spider-Man number 14 could be a number of issues. Like I said, I own thousands of Spider-Man, and that comes up a lot. So Peter Parker Spider-Man 14 in Volume 2 is a Hulk issue, and it's from 1999-2000. But Amazing Spider-Man number 14 is from the original 1962 series. So this comic is from like 1963, and it's the first time they meet. Comics are complicated, I apologize, but Amazing Spider-Man 14, Volume 1, is going to be the first time Spider-Man and Hulk meet, and it's actually because of the Green Goblin. So the Green Goblin is fighting Spider-Man. The Enforcers are involved. He takes out the Enforcers pretty quickly. There's a cave, and in that cave, boom, pumpkin bomb, and from out of the pumpkin madness, the Hulk. So it's our first time these heroes meet. It's an actual throwdown fight. Hulk was a rampaging monster in this issue, so if you want to see a classic throwdown fight, Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, iconic OG Spider-Man, one of the only 18 issues I have left that I need this one, is number 14, and it's a great fight between the Hulk and Spider-Man. And my final fight, because I'm keeping it to the frisky fight business, is going to be Todd McFarlane. I cannot say awesome Hulk fight without mentioning the Gray Hulk and mentioning Mr. Fix-It. This is going to be the incredible, Amazing Spider-Man number 328, is an incredible Hulk, incredible cover, incredible fight. Spider-Man actually launches Hulk into space. You'll see it is one of the coolest big bombastic fights, and it's Todd McFarlane art. So I wanted to bring you guys some of the all-timers. We talked Bagley, we talked Jr., we talked Ditko, we talked McFarlane, bringing you guys the heavy hitters, and this is probably the heaviest hitter as far as fight style is 328. All right, from Hulk relationship to Punisher relationship. Punisher was invented in Spider-Man. Jerry Conway, one of the great all-time Spider-Man writers. He passed away recently. All the love to Jerry Conway's family. I got to moderate a panel for him, and it was such an honor because of what he did for my entire childhood and this character I love. Jerry Conway invented, co-created Punisher. The issue that we meet Punisher ever, it's not in a Punisher number 1, no, is an Amazing Spider-Man 129. So I'm going to kick this off with that. Punisher's the antagonist of this issue. He's trying to kill Spider-Man. Awesome issue. It's the first Punisher. Start there. His second ever appearance is in Amazing Spider-Man 135. And in Amazing Spider-Man 135, I remember this because it was it was like I had 30 Spider-Man left, and for some reason this issue like haunted me. I couldn't find a good condition. This beautiful web on the cover, and it's different characters in his life. In 134, which we're going to talk about later with Tarantula, Harry Osborn discovers who Spider-Man is. I don't know if that's going to be an element with maybe Ned. I don't know if we're going to get any of those storylines, but an important person finds out Spider-Man is Spider-Man. We'll talk about that with Tarantula. But in this issue, Punisher comes back in 135, and he's an antagonist still. It's his second appearance. He's a bad guy. It's an interesting build on that 129. So 129, 135, and then his third appearance, I think, is very telling and possible alluding to the X-Men, and that is issues 161 and 162. These pair of issues are Punisher and Spider-Man and Nightcrawler. So we've got this duo of Spider-Man and Nightcrawler trying to save people's lives. Punisher is, a vigilante that kills when he sees violence happening, and basically there's a sniper. It's a very heavy issue, but Punisher thinks Nightcrawler or Spider-Man might be responsible, and when he finds out they're not, it's actually a team-up dynamic between Nightcrawler, Punisher, and Spider-Man. So I could see something like that happening off screen. It seems like Punisher and Spider-Man are in a good spot together, but I do think it's interesting that his third appearance is X-Men adjacent. Don't know if Jean's in this movie, but man oh man is that rumor loud, and man oh man would Sadie Sink absolutely crush it as Jean Grey. So just had to include that. So for Punisher, I'm going to go with these are all Amazing Spider-Man Volume 1s. So it's 129, his first appearance, 135, his second appearance, and his third appearance, which is 161 and 162 with Nightcrawler right there as well. All right, we're going to kick it over to the Hand because that is the next most predominant part of the trailers. The Hand is not as integral to Spider-Man. So I'm not going to actually recommend anything directly. The Omega Drive storyline, I don't think is going to be a factor, but it is Punisher, Spider-Man, and the Hand, but I don't think it's going to relate. I'd say maybe Shadowland, which is a Daredevil run, and that storyline might have some implications here, but I would not think the Hand. I think the Hand is involved because Destin Daniel Cretton is going to do some incredible choreography. He's going to make some awesome fights. It's going to be visually stunning, but I don't think there's a comic pull for the reason the Hand is in the story directly. So no Rex for the Hand there. Let's go to our bad guys. All right, so this is going to be just the big bads we've seen in those montages and the ones we know are in the movie. And I'm going to start with Tombstone because we have not seen anything with him yet, but we know he was cast. I think he's going to be maybe the biggest screen time or the most important of those characters. Tom Holland recently said that we don't know who the big bad is yet. It hasn't been revealed as of recording this. So I'm going to kick it off with Tombstone because it's a character I love dearly, and Jerry Conway tying into Punisher. Jerry Conway's getting some love here as well, along with Sal Buscema, who also recently passed away. It's been a rough couple years for Bronze Age Spider-Man icons. But Tombstone, I'm giving it to the Tombstone saga. There's a lot of incredible Tombstone, but this one is formative, man. The Tombstone saga is Spectacular Spider-Man 139 it starts, and it goes all the way, in my opinion, to 157. Now, if you get a collection, it's going to be like 6 issues. There is technically that arc, but I would argue Jerry Conway's Sal Buscema's duo on Tombstone, I'm going to go all the way to 157. So I'm going to read that all the way through. Those 18 or so issues are incredible. It's a year and a half worth. It is so worth it. It's collected in this, which is the 142, Spectacular Spider-Man 142 is this cover. So sometimes they use a single issue and make it the graphic novel cover. Check out this collection. I think you can get all these I've listed so far on Marvel Unlimited. So if you just have that one monthly fee, you can read all of these. You can read all these for like $10 in a month. I'd recommend it. So the Tombstone saga is Jerry Conway, who, like I said, co-created Punisher. He killed Gwen Stacy. In my opinion, he ended the Silver Age of comic books. He is formative to Spidey. He loved Tombstone. So there's this great run where basically Tombstone and Robbie Robertson have history. Robbie Robertson is a huge ally to Spider-Man. He's the #2 at the Daily Bugle. I think most of the time he knows who Spider-Man is. Peter Parker, that relationship is really important, but he's an asset to both Peter Parker and to Spider-Man. He's an ally to both of them, while Jonah's a pain in the ass. And Robbie and Lonnie Lincoln have history, and that's really fleshed out here. It's a lot of really cool prison stuff. It feels like a gang war element. We know prison's in the movie. We know Tombstone's in the movie. I would love this to be at least, sprinkled throughout. Plus, it's just an incredible run of 18 comic books. So check out the Tombstone saga in general. But I think, this is my just theory, I think it might be part of what goes down in Brand New Day. Next up, and also just lots of Tombstone, especially in Spectacular Spider-Man, especially as drawn by Sal Buscema. Highly recommend it. Next up, we've got Scorpion. Scorpion's tricky because he's cooler just as a character than a lot of the times he's portrayed. A lot of people know him as like, a later Venom. He gets taken over by the symbiote, but I wanted to stick with just Scorpion. So I'm going to give you 2 sets of 2 issues. We're going with Spectacular Spider-Man 215 and 216 because we're coming out of the Tombstone stuff. So similar tone. It's the same artist, same writer. Sal Buscema is on the Spectacular Spider-Man run, and it's this gritty, sewer-based storyline. So basically, Scorpion's sick of being trapped in his suit. He's trapped, like Rhino, in that suit. And he's in the sewer, and he's kind of just wreaking havoc, mad at being stuck as Scorpion. It's a really violent Scorpion. It's a really good fight between him and Spider-Man. It's just a 2-hander, so I'd recommend that one. And then another 2-hander, we're going back to McFarlane. I would say 318 and 319. So this is right after Venom. Venom was, 299 through 305 or so, and this is right before the Grey Hulk. So right in that sweet spot is going to be a really cool double issue with Scorpion, and it's him basically going through, like, he hates Jonah because Jonah's the one that trapped him in the suit. He paid for him to become the Scorpion, now he's trapped in the suit. It's got a really cool fight with him and Rhino. Again, all Todd McFarlane art, really awesome stuff. That is going to be 318 and 319. So Scorpion is Spectacular Spider-Man, 215 and 216. Amazing Spider-Man, 318 and 319. Let's kick it over to Boomerang, from Amazing Spider-Man in the McFarlane era, right over to an Eric Larson cover. You've seen this as reflected in the trailer. My God, did I lose my mind when I saw this cover that's seared into my mind now in live action. I love that Destin Daniel Cretton and Tom Holland are doing this. I'm so happy with everyone at Sony for just making my dreams. This is incredible. So this cover is actually an Eric Larson cover, but inside is Mark Bagley art. Talked about Mark Bagley earlier, one of the most formative Spider-Man artists ever. But this Boomerang cover is from this really fun Cardiac storyline, and this issue actually has Aunt May have a love interest, which is the Fantastic Four's mailman. So if you want a fun issue, you want to have some like hijinks plus Cardiac, who's a very 90s villain, check out Amazing Spider-Man 345 for that Boomerang issue. From that cover to the Ramrod cover. This is, I never thought I'd see this, man. This is Amazing Spider-Man, I believe, 221. This is a college issue. This is Peter Parker still in college, but in this issue, drinks are drink, and those drinks are drank with something in them. So something causes all these college kids to get all riled up and angry. So it's like a drugged drink dare kind of era. Spider-Man actually had a lot of drug awareness issues, and this was one of them. A little lighter than the stuff that happens with Harry Osborn later. But this 221 has Ramrod. Ramrod's a cyborg. I doubt he'll be in it more than just this cover being represented, but it's a cool cover. Amazing 221. Check out Ramrod. And then we've got Tarantula. This is going to be the last one I dive into because this video is very long. Tarantula is also this beautifully rendered cover. I'm so happy. This is Amazing Spider-Man number 134. This was also recreated in comics in another cover, but the background is different. I actually misquoted this in one of my videos a while ago, but this is Amazing Spider-Man 134. Another cover uses the same pose with a different background. This 134 precedes that second Punisher. So the end of this issue, very important. It's Harry Osborn finding out that Peter Parker is Spider-Man because Tarantula basically storms this boat, and all of these people on the boat are held hostage for $1 million a head. Tarantula is like a mercenary dealer of sorts, and basically Flash Thompson, Mary Jane, Peter Parker, Betty? Anyway, college kids, they're all on this boat, and then Spider-Man has to change into Peter Parker, fights on the boat, he gets trapped, basically has to go back home, get more web fluid, and Harry Osborn, because he's in a hurry, Harry Osborn sees him coming in and out, discovers Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Very important issue 134, leads right into that second Punisher 135. So, Tarantula's first appearance right here, I believe, with Amazing 134. The issue that I misquoted was, ironically, Spectacular Spider-Man number 1, which is all that Tombstone stuff that leads to later. They reuse that pose. So there is an issue which is literally this the same cover, different background, that kicks off a new run of Spider-Man altogether. That's comic books. That's another video. Could talk about that another time. And of course, Amazing Fantasy 15 is where it all started. They also recreated this iconic moment in motion, lovely to see. And Amazing Fantasy 15 is the first ever appearance of Spider-Man. So if you want to go back to the very, very beginning, Amazing Fantasy 15, 1962. It was 6 months before anyone knew how popular Spider-Man was, before Amazing Spider-Man number 1 could come out, because that took mail, it took counting all the numbers. So Amazing Fantasy 15 was the last issue of Amazing Fantasy. They let Steve Ditko and Stan Lee squeeze in this character that they believed in. This won't work, spiders. Nobody likes spiders. And now he's the biggest character in pop culture because of the last issue of a canceled run of Amazing Fantasy comics, which led to Amazing Spider-Man, which led to all those runs I just described. So if you want to go back to the very beginning, they homaged the very beginning in Spider-Man Brand New Day. So those are a lot of comics I would recommend. I've also made a video about Spider-Man Brand New Day in its entirety, all 102 issues. CinemaCon last year, over a year ago, they announced the title, and I did a full breakdown off the dome of that 102 issue run. That is on this page. If you type in Spider-Man Brand New Day under my videos, you will see that. This is July as of airing this. I believe this will be first week of July. I'm doing coverage all month. So please hit that subscription bell if you want to see more Spider-Man stuff. If you want to see me covering Spider-Man, he's my favorite. So there'll be lots of Spider-Man stuff right here on this very page. More comic book stuff, reviews of the movie, Easter eggs, all sorts of stuff right here. So please hit that subscription bell. Let me know in the comments below if you've read any of these, if you want to read any of these, if there's any Spider-Man you'd recommend to me. I would love to talk Spidey with you in the comments. Let's have a conversation about Boomerang, about Tarantula, about Tombstone. It's crazy we're getting these guys. So let me know in the comments below. Also hit a like while you're pressing buttons. Hit subscribe if any of that sounds like your cup of tea. I appreciate you. And remember, with great power, there must also come, it's an action, great responsibility. I appreciate y'all. Like, subscribe, comment. Spider-Man. All right, bye.